Bonjour. Today we are going to look at how to tell time in French. And I just want to preface this by saying that telling time in French can be as easy or as hard as you want it to be. This was something that was one of my hardest things when I was in French 1, learning how to tell time. I am not a numbers person. I am not a math person. And it feels like telling time involves both of those. And we already know that French numbers, they're tricky. But I'm going to show you easy ways to tell time and then how to make it a little bit fancier or more difficult if you choose to. So first of all, the French tell time with what they call l'heure officielle. L'heure officielle is what we call military time. It's the 24-hour clock where they divide all of the hours of the day into 24 hours starting from midnight until the next midnight. So you start from 0 and go to 23. Most countries in the world use l'heure officielle or military time. In France, it's used with like the train station and departure times, movie times, store hours, all sorts of businesses use military time, so it is important to recognize. I will point out that the 12-hour clock is what we use in America, and other places like Australia, Canada, the UK, Spain also can use the 12-hour clock. Now, as far as telling the difference between the 12-hour clock and the 24-hour clock, just add or subtract 12. So if you see something that says 15 o'clock, before you panic, just subtract 12 from that. 15 o'clock is 3 o'clock, 3 in the afternoon. So it doesn't have to be a tricky idea, this idea of l'heure officielle. Here's a really fuzzy map of some countries that use the 12-hour clock, like us in the United States, some countries that use the 24-hour clock, most of Europe, and some are mixed. For example, in Canada, most of Canada uses the 12-hour clock except for Quebec. When you're telling time in French, here's a few things to note. In English, we don't always say o'clock. So we might say, oh, it's 7, or I'm leaving at 3:30. And we don't say o'clock. In French, you always need the word heure, aka hour. The word heure is feminine. The only time you won't say heure is with midnight and noon. Midnight is minuit, noon is midi. Also, when you're writing out the times, in English, we do a colon, those 2 dots. In French, they use the letter H, which represents, again, that word heure. And French doesn't say AM, PM. Instead, they say du matin, de l'après-midi, du soir. Du soir starts around 5 or 6 p.m. De l'après-midi is in the afternoon. So I would say, il est 2h45 du matin in the morning, or il est 2h45 de l'après-midi in the afternoon. So you can say those times to be more specific. Excuse me. Here's what I mean when I say that telling time can be easy. When you are looking at just the round hour, every hour, you are simply counting, except do note that 1 o'clock is feminine, une heure. So we'll start with midnight, minuit, which literally is midnight, minuit, une heure, 2 heures, 3 heures. Do you hear all these liaisons between the S's and the H? 2 heures, 3 heures, 4 heures, 5 heures, 6 heures, 7 heures, 8 heures, 9 heures, 10 heures, 11 heures, 12 heures, or you can say midday, aka midi. If you are using military time, l'heure officielle, just keep counting. 13 heures, 14 heures, 15 heures, 16 heures, 17 heures, 18 heures, 19 heures, 20 heures, 21 heures, 22 heures, and 23 heures. Then we go back to minuit. You can also say 1 heure de l'après-midi, 2 heures de l'après-midi, etc. 7 heures du soir, 8 heures du soir, 9 heures du soir. That's it. If you're dealing with round hours, telling time in French is really simple. Let's talk about all of the other parts of telling time in French and how it can get more complicated. It uses the verb être to say it is 2 o'clock, it is 3 o'clock. 2 ways to ask what time it is. The standard way is quelle heure est-il? Quelle heure est-il? est-il? This is inversion. And this is the word which, feminine. Which hour is it? Quelle heure est-il? Another way is quelle heure avez-vous? Quelle heure as-tu? What hour do you have? Quelle heure avez-vous? Quelle heure as-tu? To tell time on the hour, like we saw previously, you'll use the number and the word heure. Il est 6 heures. Il est 1 heure. Ce n'est pas difficile. That's not too tough. I did forget to put it on my PowerPoint, but let's say it's 6:05. I'll just say il est 6h05. Let's say it's 1:40. Il est 1h40. So telling time in French, especially if you use military time, you're just going to say the number, heure, and the other number, like 6h05, 1h40. That's it. Now, if you choose not to use military time, there are some other phrases and fancy things that you can use. Up until the half hour, so up until 30, you'll do like I just said, and you'll say the time, heure, and the minutes, like il est 1h23. It's 1 hour 23. Il est 8h02. It's 8:02. However, you have the option of making it a little bit fancier, and if you want to say 10:15, you can say et quart, which means and a quarter. Il est 10h15. Il est 10h15. It's 10 and a quarter. It's kind of like how in English some people choose to say quarter past. You can also say half past. So if it's 11:30, you'll use the phrase et demi. Il est 11h30. It's 11 and a half. Il est 11h30. Here's where, for me personally, it got trickier, and I had a really hard time with this. To tell the time from everything after 30, you have the option of doing some math and subtracting. What you do is you think about the next hour coming up and subtract. It's kind of like in English how we say, so let's say it's 2:50. Someone would say, oh, it's 10 till. It's 10 till 3. In French, what they will do is think of the next hour, aka 3, and then they'll subtract 10. They'll say it like this. Il est 3 heures, 3 hours, moins 10, minus 10. Another example, if it's 4:56, they're going to say it's 5 o'clock minus 4. Il est 5 heures moins 4. If it's a 45, you can say minus a quarter. Il est 6 heures moins le quart. Il est 6 heures moins le quart, minus 15, minus the quarter. And 6:40, for example, you'd say it's 7 minus 20. Il est 7 heures moins 20. If that is complicated for you, like it was for me in 8th grade French 1 when I was learning, stick with military time and you could say, il est 6h40. Il est 5h45. However you can communicate the time and in a way that works for you is just fine. I am pointing this out because if you heard somebody say it or if you see it written down, I want you to know what that is. To say at, you'll use the word à. So something happens at a time. Nous avons cours à 10 heures. We have class at 10. J'ai rendez-vous à 5 heures. I have a meeting at 5. So you'll have à plus the time instead of il est. Oops. As far as pronunciation goes, you will do liaison in between these final letters of the numbers in the word heure, like 2 heures, 6 heures, 10 heures. You make a z sound. And the F in neuf becomes a V. Il est 9 heures. Il est 9 heures. Il est 9h15. You don't usually make a liaison between a and the number. So you say il est 11 heures and not il est 11 heures. That's working too hard. You'll say il est 1h20, not il est 1h20. Il est 8h30. Lastly, here are some expressions that will be useful when you are telling time. À quelle heure means at what time. Tu déjeunes à quelle heure? You're eating lunch at what time? Du matin, de l'après-midi, du soir, we already talked about. Du matin in the morning, de l'après-midi in the afternoon, du soir in the evening. En avance and tôt both mean early. Tôt just has to do with early in the day. Tôt le matin. It is early in the morning. En avance means early for something. So like, il arrive en avance. He arrives early for whatever he's doing. Same idea with en retard and tard. Tard means late in the evening. Je rentre tard le soir. I get home late at night. And en retard means later for something, like delayed. So je suis en retard. I'm late. I'm running late for something. Midi is noon. Minuit is midnight. Pile. That's a great word. Pile means on the dot, sharp. Il téléphone à 2 heures pile. He's calling at 2 o'clock on the dot. Presque means almost. Il est presque 16 heures. It's almost military time. What do? I subtract 12, aka it's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And vers means around, about. So elles arrivent vers 20 heures. They arrive around 20 hours. What is 20 hours? I subtract 12, so that should be 8 o'clock. 8 at night. Elles arrivent vers 20 heures. I hope that that was helpful with learning how to tell time. You can keep it nice and simple and just say the number, the word heure, and the minute number. You can also use fancier phrases like du matin, de l'après-midi, du soir. You could say écart, et demi. You can even do that fancy subtraction where you say minus and talk about the next hour. But you can also just keep it simple with military time if you choose. Bonne chance, good luck with these phrases and telling time, and à la prochaine. Ciao!